Hey everyone, it's Matt again with Q&A with Matt K. Thanks for joining. Once again, I am on my own today, so we'll see if I can manage to solve a problem and handle the recording and all the functionality at the same time. We'll see. So bear with me. Be patient, please. Hopefully, I won't fumble too much. And if I do, leave a comment about how much better it could be if Chris was here, because I'm sure he would be thrilled to see all the comments saying that you miss Chris. He's a little under the weather today. Hopefully, he'll be back next time. He and I were both out of the office last week. We were at Texas Dreamin', giving some talks and having a great time. But we're back this week, or at least I am. Before we begin, please remember to like and subscribe. I don't know if I'm pointing at the right places, but hopefully somewhere where my fingers are going is the place where you will click your mouse to like and subscribe. So like the video, subscribe to the channel. You can share it with friends or enemies, depending on how you feel about it. But welcome everyone for another episode. Chris has set me up for success or failure. We'll find out soon by providing me with a question from the Trailhead boards. If you have a question, you can always post it there on Trailhead or submit it using this form here, quick2.click/Q&A. I had a little moment there where I'm not sure if that's a forward or a backward slash. Please let me know in the comments, but hopefully you're able to figure out the correct slash to use since it's on the screen. And with that, let's go ahead and jump into this first question that Chris has sent me. I am going to figure out how to show it. There we go. So here is the question that was submitted earlier today by Amy. Amy said, I'm a non-developer, but I have a new Apex class that I need a test class for. Is anybody able to help write it? Came to the right place, Amy. Even though you didn't come directly here, we ended up in the right place. So what I'm going to do today is take this Apex class, which is in Amy's org, and I'm going to try to write a test class for it. And of course, if we're writing test classes, we need to get at least 75% coverage, no failures allowed. So I will try to do that. It looks like Amy's got a custom object here that ends with an __B, which I think means it's a big object. So that might be a little tricky for me to work with, but I should be able to do that in this org. And if not, I'll figure something out. Before we begin, a little word from our sponsors, Mambo Merge. Mambo Merge is a native document generation app for Salesforce, and it's the only one that gives away 10 free licenses to any Salesforce customer. You can find out more about them at mambomerge.com. You can see here Mambo Merge is easy to install, implement, and get started, and it's fully native, so your data is safe, secure, and stays in your org. Again, that's mambomerge.com. You can also get to it by going to quick2.click/mambo with Matt K. And that way we'll know how many of our viewers actually went to their site from us. So one more time, quick2.click/mambo with Matt K. And with that, let's go ahead and jump in to this problem. So the first thing I'm going to have to do in my org is create this class that Amy already has. Then we'll probably have to fix it a little because of this big object issue. So the name of this class is called Delete Big Object Records 2. I don't know what happened to Delete Big Object Records 1, but my guess is it probably already has test coverage, and that's why she doesn't need help with it. So I'm going to copy this from here and paste it into here, and we're good to go other than the formatting. Let me zoom in once, maybe we'll zoom in. There we go. Hopefully that's a little better for everyone at home. And now if I try to deploy this right now to my Playground org, obviously I would never deploy directly to a sandbox production. We get an error saying all this stuff doesn't exist. Pipeline history _B basically does not exist. Like I said, that's that big object. Let's see what's going on with this big object? So pipeline history __ B. That's a neat idea. I think what's happening there is they're storing the history of their opportunity pipeline in a big object. And so if we look, we can see the fields that are available on this big object. And deleting data from a big object is important because you can only put in so much data before you have to start paying for it. And so that's my guess why they want to delete it with this Apex class here. Let me go ahead and change my spacing. There we go to 2. And I should really just run a tool like Prettier on this, but you can see there I'm getting an issue. And I don't have time to fix that on this call. So we will work on that another time. Maybe that's a whole other video that I should make, how to set up VS Code. Or use Code Builder, which is something that I also use a lot lately. So in order to be able to compile this, I'm going to have to create a big object. Let's come back to my org here, and we'll go to Setup. And on the left-hand side in the quick find, I'm not typing big objects. Now this is a Trailhead playground, so I don't know what the limits are on this org. Hopefully we can create one big object, and then I'll delete it later if needed. So the name of this object is pipeline history. Let's go ahead and type that in. And let me zoom in for those of you at home. There we go, pipeline history. Now, this does not need to be perfect. As long as the API name, the object name matches, will be good. Even if the label is a little different, that's okay. And we'll hit save. And then I have to start creating the fields, because if I were to save this now, we'll get a new error, right? So right now we have 12 errors, we can see there. Let's go ahead and deploy this, and we'll have one fewer than 12 at least. How many do we get down to? We got down to 9. That's not bad. I could do that. I don't know why I'm getting an error in content version, so I wonder if this org doesn't have something related to content. That could be it too. In the meantime, let's just see. Okay, we need a record ID field here, and we need a report date field. I'm assuming record ID is a text field or an ID field. Report date is probably a date time field based on that there, we can see. So let's create those two fields. And one more time, that's going to be a text field called record ID, although it could be a lookup. I don't know if it matters really for the purpose of this exercise. I don't think it does. I'm not fixing Amy's code, hopefully. I'm hopefully just writing a test class for it. So record ID should be good. And then the next one is report date. And this is going to be a date time field. And if this is not good enough, we'll figure it out when we get the error message. Okay, so all I'm doing right now is getting to a position where I can actually write the test. Technically, I could write a test without having this code in my org, but it'd be really hard to then run the test and see, does it do anything? You know, does it give me the test coverage that I need? Let's try that one more time. I have a feeling I'm going to run into this. Okay, what is going on with this? No content version. Why would I not have content version? Let's check if content's enabled in this org. So it says enable Salesforce CRM content. It is enabled. Let's go to profiles and see if my profile, which should be the system admin profile, has access to content or not. And maybe it's a user thing also. That's a possibility. It might be a user thing. But let's just see if content version is available here. I'm going to just do a search for content. Oh, it's hidden. But I don't think that's it. That's a tab. Okay, that was not helpful. I'm going to cancel out of that actually. And let's go to my user. My user doesn't have my name. So we're going to go to my user, and it's a long name there. And let's edit this user and see. Oh, wow. It looks like I have access to content. Well, this is very interesting. Already Chris has thrown me a wrench that I need to figure out. Does that analogy work? I'm not sure. Okay, so why is content version not working? Variables don't exist, content version. Let's do this. Sometimes, every once in a while, the tool that you use has a problem, and it's not necessarily Salesforce. I can't always blame Salesforce for all my problems. A lot of times it's actually totally unrelated. And if I were thinking clearly, I would figure it out. I think this is the issue. There we go. That line was not finished. This was totally a Matt issue, not a Salesforce issue. Once again, I apologize. There we go. Okay, so that compiled. Great. We have zero test coverage for this, right? We just have a class that is called delete big object records. What I'm going to do now is create a new Apex class. Oh, Apex unit test class. And we'll call this delete big object record to tests. We got all the boilerplate at the top, and then we got this stuff down here. And so we need to get test coverage for 75% of the lines in this class. That's the goal here. And this is a single method that we need to call. So hopefully we'll be able to do it without having to change any of the actual business logic, but sometimes that's not possible. We also don't want any failures. And so that also could require us to change this code. So what I'm going to do is come back here and I'm going to call, let's change this to spacing of 2 also. Thanks for pointing that out at home. Somebody, I'm sure, pointed it out. I'm going to call delete big object records 2.this is our method. Now I'm going to pass in nothing for now. Oh, interesting. What is going on? Look at that. Well, this line's not needed at all then, right? Let's do that. Okay. And I'm going to pass in null. Okay, and then we'll call this the delete records unit test and deploy. And let's see what happens. Okay, so that's saved. Now there's a couple of ways we can run these tests, right? We can run it right here. We can say run all tests right in VS Code, and I'll do that. And then we'll run it a different way as well via the web UI. So this is running right now. And it's taking a while. So while that's running, let's come back here. I'm going to go ahead and open up the developer console and then grab the URL for the developer console and paste it into this window so you all can see it at home. And we can come here to tests and we can see that, oh, look at that. It already failed. So that's great in the sense that we got a result. Here we can see that it failed, and we can see more information about that failure right here in VS Code. System query exception list has no rows for assignment to S object. That makes sense because I passed in null. So that totally makes sense. If we look here, this query is not following best practices. Best practices is to always query to a list, see if that list contains anything, and then use the thing that it contains. So this is breaking that rule. I'm not going to fix this business code. Maybe I'll just let Amy know, or she'll watch this video and hear me say it. And if I have time later, I'll come back to it. So what that means is our test class is going to have to somehow provide an actual ID for a content version. And I'm going to go ahead and create a method called make data, and then we're going to have to insert a content version. Let's call it test content equals new content version. Now, it doesn't have to really be a meaningful content version. We don't have to have, like an actual file that has important stuff in there. But that's what we're going to want to do here. Insert test content. And the only reason I haven't finished this yet is because I have to remember all the fields on a content version. And off the top of my head, I don't remember them. I want to say test content dot version body, version data. Look at that. There's autocomplete equals. We'll say hello for now. I know that's not going to work because I think it wants a blob. But let's try to save this, and we'll get the errors and string to blob. Perfect. Okay. And normally, if I cared about the file, I actually would probably have to base 64 encode this, but I don't care about the file. This is just to provide something. Okay, great. That seems to possibly have worked. So this at test setup here at the top, this annotation, what happens is every time a unit test is run in this Apex class, this code here is basically going to create that record. You could also say it runs at the very beginning and then it's rolled back in between. It doesn't really matter. The point is whatever happens in here is going to be available inside our unit test. And so I'm going to go ahead and do a query of content versions. And if I want, I can say limit 1. I don't think it really matters. But then here we'll say if, actually, you know what? So when we do a unit test, we often have to do a lot of work to set up the test. But one of the things that we're testing as part of a unit test is, does the code in the test run within the limits that Salesforce has? Salesforce has governor limits that say, hey, if you're going to execute code, you have to follow these rules. You can't do too much of this. You can't do too much of that. You have to do it fast, that type of thing. And so it's not fair if the stuff outside the test to set up the scenario takes up some of those limits, towards our adds up towards our limits. So what Salesforce provides us is this method called test.startTest and test.stopTest, which basically says start counting here. Everything before that, everything after it is a separate set of limits. This is where we're going to start counting. Let's go ahead and do this and deploy. And then we'll run this test again. I expect there to probably be some error because I did this without reading the required fields on content version. But let's just go ahead and try it out. We'll see what happens. And I'll fix whatever errors we have. Okay, so we got an error. Let's see what it says. Insert failed. One of these fields must be set, path on client or content URL. Okay, so this again is saying to me, hey, Matt, you didn't fill in all the required fields. So this line here, we can see the little red line, insert test content failed. Now, I should probably look at what are all the required fields, because in Salesforce, when we run an Apex unit test or try to compile, we're only presented with the first error. There might be an error on the next line and the next line and the next line, and we're not going to know that. So the best thing for me to do, since I don't have it memorized, is to open up my favorite search engine and search for content version S-object. Doesn't matter if I spell it wrong because Salesforce Help finds it. And so here we can see content version and all the information needed for it. This particular object. We can see what fields are required and what fields are optional. Let's keep going and we'll see if any others are required. So the one that I just said was path on client, right? Sorry about the scrolling. It's going kind of fast. There we go. Path on client. Doesn't say it's required. All right. Well, it's conditionally required. Let's go ahead and run it again, or we'll deploy and then run again. And basically go through this process of chipping away at the errors. Oh, did I get another error? I did. What's the error now? Someone at home is laughing because they see the error and I don't see it. The error is one of these fields must be set path on client. I already had that error. I don't think this is a new error. That's the existing one. Okay, no errors. Sorry. Let's go ahead and run all tests. Close that. And we'll see what the output is from running these tests. Got another error. List has no rows for assignment to S-object. Now, this is our actual business list, right? This is our business code. So let's come back to our business class and see what line was that error. The error was on line 5. Wait a minute. I inserted one. Oh, where content document equals this. Yep, silly me. No, I did pass it in. Okay, let's do this. I'm going to go ahead and do an assertion. So an assertion is what I like to call I bet my code. And what I'm saying here is I bet my code that something is true. So I bet my code that the content version list here is greater than 0. And if it's not, my code's going to fail and stop. If it is, I get to move on. I pass, I get to move on. No content, and I'm just putting a little message here. This is the best practice. No content versions were found. Okay, so this will tell us if the problem is here, we're passing in nothing, which I don't think is the case, or if the problem is here, which I think is the case. And I wonder if it has anything to do with this is latest equals true, because that could be it. what I could do, what I should do is actually use this query in my query. That way I know for sure that that record is going to match. So let's do that. And if I was doing this the right way, it actually would refactor it and make it one that I can call from the test class, and then I actually would get coverage right away, which is a letter of the law thing, not a spirit of the law. Okay, let me try that one more time. I'm going to take away some of the boilerplate at the top, and let's run all tests, and let's see what happens now. So now that we're doing the same query in two places, it should fail in the first one, not the second one. And sure enough, there we go. List has no rows for assignment to S object. Well, it just says line 5. That's interesting. That's very interesting. So to me, that what that means is this is passing. This is not. This is passing. This is not. That is odd. Because if it passed there, it should pass here. Okay. What am I doing wrong? That is a great question. I'm just going to save everything again. You know what I'm going to do, just to mix things up, I'm going to go ahead and run the test from here. It shouldn't make any difference. Shouldn't be the keyword. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Okay, so it did fail. Good, at least it's consistent. And problem is a query. The problem is the line 4. This says line 4. That's interesting. So line 25 of the test is calling line 4 of the Apex class. This is going to be a much longer video than I intended. Sorry, folks. So this line 25 is calling line 4 over here, line 4 here. Why is this not coming up? Ah, I see it. Content document ID is being passed in, not content version ID. Here I'm passing in the content version ID. So we need to change this to that. So you pass in the content document instead of the content version ID. And one more time, we're going to run this test. And this time, it won't fail on that line. It may fail somewhere else, but it won't fail on that line. Oh, it passed. One more time, it was totally my fault. We can see a little more information here. So it passed. That doesn't really tell us much more. I'm going to jump back to the developer console. We can see here, it did pass here as well. And if we're lucky, we can see how much coverage is available. 64% is available. We can click on that and actually see the lines that are being covered. So here we can see this is where it's failing, not failing, sorry. This is where it's not covering the code. So 64, we need 75 or higher. So it starts on line 17, not being passed. Now you can see this also in VS Code. I believe it is test results right here. And so you can see all our test results here. I have a lot of test results, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that. And I'll get back to trying to figure out how do I get test coverage on this. So it's saying based on, keep going, content data as string. Oh, interesting. So the data in this content version is supposed to be a string that has a carriage return in it. And then within that carriage return, it has commas. Interesting. We don't know what this is, but that's okay. Let's try this, something like this, X, Y, and Z. And I may need to escape this, or I may not. It's hard to tell. Let's go ahead and deploy and see what happens. Okay, yeah, so it's just highlighting with the syntax highlighting. Okay. So one more time, what's happening here in the code, we're querying content version. This is the business code. Getting the file itself. It appears to be a text file, so that's great. Inside that text file, it's split up by carriage return. /n is carriage return. And then each of those lines, so one line, then carriage return, another line. Each of those lines has a split up by comma. Oh, so I need to actually adjust that. Okay, so let's do something like this. We're going to call this, row 1, comma, value 1, right? And then we'll do row 2, comma, value 2. And then we'll do row 3, comma, value 3. Let's do that. So it's parsing some text in here. Oh, and look at that. It's going to break. I can tell ahead of time because this string array here is expecting a date time. So this is some type of report that's being generated. It's expecting a date time and a record ID. We can see that here. Okay, and the 0, so SARR string array is a row. The second one needs to be a date time. The first one needs to be a text. We don't actually need, okay, so we need to change this value here to be a date time. Let's go ahead and put a date time in there. 01 T 1212 colon 00 Z maybe. I'm not sure the format it's expecting. So we'll try this out. Oh, I forgot the /n. No, I screwed up. Let me go back. Okay, it should be this one and this one. Okay, let's try that one more time. So all I'm doing is basically creating what I think is the data that this code is expecting. And now I'm running my test. And something changed. Okay, invalid date time. That makes sense. So specifically, if we look at the business class, it is doing this, date time value of, and it says convert report date time string to date time. One way to figure out what it's expecting is to look at the docs, the specs for the date time class in Apex, look at value of, because there are multiple formats, and we can see here date string, and here's the way it did it right there. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to come back to my Apex test class, and I'm going to paste this up here, and here's a date of the string. So I can actually put the string date in there. So what I'm going to do, just to kind of, let's do this, string row 1, string row 2, and string row 3. I don't know if I actually need all of those, but that's okay. So this first one is going to be the word row 1 plus the string date, which is this thing up here that's being compiled. And then we'll do row 2. And all this is just sample data just to be able to run the test. So if you're ever in the position where someone is giving you a quote on test coverage, now you know why. It can seem like it's a lot of time involved. It's because it does take a lot of time to do this properly. And so now I can do this a couple ways. I can go ahead and do this, where I'm going to basically create a long string that combines all these rows that I created up above. I can also do it another way. That's a little more clever, but I'm starting simple and then working my way to clever. Okay, and then we're going to come back and run this again, and we'll see what happens. Fingers crossed. We got an exception. Oh, but wait, I think it's something new. A callout was unsuccessful. Yes, okay. So what that, and we can see probably what line this occurred on if I clean up line 27. Okay. So on line 27, database.delete immediate is being called. Now there's a problem in that bulk objects, the way you interact with them in Apex, is a special way. It's not the way you interact with regular objects. It's a fairly newer feature in the history of Salesforce. And so this is considered to be a callout or some type of special operation. And so we can't do it under certain circumstances. In this case, pending uncommitted work related to a process flow or Apex operation. That's interesting. So one way to get around this is to use the is running test is running test method. I'm just curious, why does it think that something is still running? I don't think something is still running. So Let's just double check. Where's that for loop? The for loop is here. That should be fine. Okay, so let's just add it in there. So test is running test basically tells Apex if this is running a test or not, or if this is running in real business logic. And I want to say only do this if it's not running a test, right? And so one more time, I'm going to come back to here, and I'm going to run all tests. And hopefully we get past line 27 now. That's the goal. And this is really how we chip away at stuff. Oh, we did it. Yay. And so now I can come back here. We can see it passed. We can see we got 94%. I'm not expecting to do any better than that, to be honest, because this is the line that we're not getting right now, which is the line that we can't run because it's not possible to run it, it looks like, in a unit test. We could Google that, actually. We could use our favorite search engine to figure it out if we want to. Now, I might actually be able to get slightly better than 94% if it was like a matter of pride. What I could do is refactor the Apex class, the business one, to maybe move things around. And then that might be able to give me a little more coverage. I'm not sure. So we could try something like that. This here is a no-no to some extent. There's no point in doing a debug for unit tests. When it comes time to deploy to production, basically, we might want to actually comment out that or put some type of more meaningful thing where we log it to a task or some type of log object. The debug, yes, we could use it if we had debugs on, but we're not going to know ahead of time to turn on debugs. So we might be able to get a little more coverage by moving things around. But I think 94 is respectable. If you disagree, feel free to put it in the comments. So there's one other thing that we really need to do over here is do an assertion after the fact. So we did an assertion up front. That's great. That's nice. That's not required. There's more for me. We need to do some type of assertion afterwards to basically prove that the code did what we expected it to do. So all we've proven right now is that the code runs, which is not that useful. And unfortunately, I'm looking with this type of code, I don't know if I'm going to be able to prove it, because what I would have to do is insert a pipeline history and then delete it. And I'm not going to be able to do that here. So I would either have to refactor this code extensively so that it returns something before we do the delete. That would be an option. That's probably what I would do. And then the delete method would just never get called. But that would actually possibly bring down the total test coverage. I'm not sure. Well, do we want to make this a really long video? That's the question that I'm at right now. Not really. I think I got my 94%. I'm happy. I'm going to have to provide Amy with this line here so that she knows that she needs to do this, as well as this test class here. But I am not thrilled with the fact that I don't have a meaningful assertion. I'm not really checking if this worked. The other thing that I'm not happy about at all is that this is not bulkified, but I don't know the use case that this is being used in. Maybe it's being called through something that it doesn't need to be bulk. Best practice is we try to write our code as bulk as possible, so that can handle, for instance, multiple content documents needing to be deleted, not just one. But the problem is we're also querying that document and then we're parsing within there, and so that could be some huge list, and that would be a little risky. So maybe I'll do a quick refactor of a couple things here, and we'll call it a day after that. So I want to create a method that is called parse document or parse body or something like that, and it's going to return a blist, and the blist here is this here, and this will be something that we can test. And so the nice thing is then we'll have at least some confirmation that our code is working. So we're going to pass in a string. Yeah, string, body string. Okay, and the results will be this B list being returned to it. And so the B list again is a pipeline history list. I don't know why it's called a B list. That's okay. And let's get to the point where we can do this. So body string dot split, adding it to the B list. And at the end, it's going to return the B list. Okay, and then we're going to call this method right here somewhere. We could do an add all. We could also do an equals. I don't think it matters too much. Okay, let's put a semicolon there. All right, so I haven't made too much of a change. Basically, let me go ahead and fix this while I'm at it. I can't not fix that, sorry. Okay, and then actually, so then what we'll say here is if content version list dot size is greater than 0, and content version list square bracket 0 dot version data is not equal to null. So this is a little better. Let's see if that compiles. Okay, that's great. I still don't like the fact that we're doing this if and then have a system debug. That's okay. Well, I have some thoughts on that, and maybe I'll come back to it in a little bit. Let's go ahead and run these tests one more time. I'm going to do it from here this time just so you can see how it works one more time. I'm going to run that. And let's see. It went up to 95%. I did get one more line. I did it. That's very respectable, I hope, for those of you at home critiquing me. Great. That's great. No failures either, right? Yeah, 95%. I'm tempted to try to get more. But at this point, I'm really not getting like more test coverage of the meaningful code. I'm just rewriting my code in such a way that there's more lines and I'm getting coverage of those lines. And so, you know, what's the point? I think we're done. I think that's it. So I will post this to Amy. We'll post this video as well. But we have 95% coverage. I don't expect to do better than that without kind of like gaming the system. We have, oh, the assertion. I almost forgot. So I can now do an assertion to ensure that this pipeline history is returning a list, this parse body into pipeline history. So let's do that. And delete big, because yes, even though we have the necessary coverage, we really need to also confirm that the code's actually working, right? That's the goal of this stuff, right? Okay, so this is going to return a list of, is that B list, right? What is the B list? The B list is pipeline history B. And now I can do an assertion. Assert dot is true. And there's a lot of different assertions that we can do here. But this should be blist dot size is equal to, and it should be equal to this thing up here. So 3 basically. 1, 2, 3, the number of rows that we have in our test content version data. Ideally, I would, you know, maybe do 100 even, do something that's bigger, make sure it really works. But that's okay. I would also probably do something a little more dynamic and not hard code. 3 rows were not found in the body. Let's just do that. Okay, and let's deploy that, and then we'll run this test one more time. Fingers crossed. What is the problem there? I broke something, and this is what I broke. Let's see what's wrong with it. It's not public. So there's 2 ways to make something available to a test. One is to mark it as public. The other is to mark it as @test_visible. Is it @is_test_visible? No, it's one of the two. And let's see if that compiles. If not, it's an is test visible. There we go. All right. Fingers crossed. We're going to do this one more time. Oh, I think I needed to actually compile one more time. Let me save this. Oh, it's still not working. What? This time, methods don't exist. Void parse body into pipeline history from the type. What is that saying? It's saying this is not available, but didn't I just make it available? Passing in a string, getting back a list of pipeline history. Passing in a string. Ah, that's not a string, that's a blob. That's what it is. Okay. Let's try that one more time. Okay. Technically, I probably should also do this. Let's go ahead. Version data is unequal to null. I think that'll work. Content version has no version data. We could also do if statements, but this is going to stop my code. I'm betting my code that this will work. And if not, these tests aren't going to pass. Maybe I can't deploy, that type of thing, which is probably a good thing if this code is critical. We don't want it to somehow work when it's unexpected. It passed, great. If we come back here, still got my 95%. I have a meaningful assertion here that confirms that at least a portion of the code does work properly. That portion is this one here, which does the parsing. If I wanted to, I could even go further and look at the data that is being returned and ensure that the pipeline history in this has the right data. We could do that too. So let's go ahead and do that very quickly. I'll do another assertion. We'll assert that the record ID of the first one is equal to this thing up here, right? So it's row 1. And ideally, again, we would do this in bulk. We would do it for all of them, not just for one. But I am doing this for free and doing it very quickly. Normally, we would, probably charge, I don't know, possibly 4 hours or more to do this type of work, and we would do it properly and fix everything. But doing this for free here. Record ID was not correct on row 0. All right, let's try that out. And so again, the purpose of the assertion is really the spirit of the law. The spirit of test coverage is to make sure that your code works properly and that you're not somehow going to cause any problems on the server. And so this goes through the motions of running that code to see, does it work properly? Do you have any failures? A failure means it didn't work properly. There was an error somewhere along the way. The error could be in your test code. It could be in your business code. It could be something related, like another trigger somewhere else. No failures, so we're great there. And got our 95%. I think we're good. So Amy, I will be responding to you shortly with a link to this video, as well as the actual code that you need. Once again, thank you for joining. Please remember to like and subscribe. If you are unhappy with any of the work I did, you can get your money back or leave a comment and let me know how I could do a better job. Until next time, thanks for joining, and I will hopefully see you again soon. Bye-bye.